This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Financial Literacy Week, powered by U Mortgage. Thanks for joining us for our third session of the day. We're going to talk about tax-related items here in this session, a very topical thing with tax season being right in the thick of it right now, and taxes coming to be due in just a few weeks. So I think a lot of interest coming to this session. And we are rejoined from our experts here from the first two sessions this morning. Mike and Stacy, I want to give them again a big thank you for joining us from Mass Mutual here of Greater Philadelphia. They're going to be walking us through the tax basics. I put just a little welcome message in the chat. If you can pop in the chat, let us know where you're joining from. I mean, people all over the country, it's always fun to see where you're joining us from. And just a few little housekeeping things before we get started. You do have the chat available to you to ask questions at any time. I'll be monitoring that, as well as there's a Q&A tab. So if you want to ask a question privately, you can do that and use that Q&A tab and type in any questions. So feel free to use that at your leisure. We'll probably revisit a lot of these questions that you ask when we come towards the end of our session. But I'm going to pass it over to Mike and Stacy to take over. Thank you for joining us again, and welcome, and please kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it. We're excited to, this is our last session for the day. So we've talked about some business owner topics, some debt, and now getting into taxes, which is maybe the funnest subject that we can probably cover. So if you were with us before, I apologize. It's going to be redundant if you're brand new. Just a quick background, Stacy and I are financial planners. So we work with a team of advisors. We're based in Philadelphia. We deal with clients all over the country. Licensed in really anywhere you are, we could be licensed in to help out. So clients probably at this point in 30 different states. So we are financial planners by day. So our passion really is helping clients make good decisions with their finances, whether it comes to managing debt, saving money, investing, putting away for retirement, sending their kids to college. All these different topics are the things that we really discuss. And we like to act really as like coach for our clients, as we want to help them answer, are you doing the right things? Are you saving enough? You're putting money in the right spots? How to tackle this debt, how to do it the right way is really key. So we're very passionate about it. We're going to have a QR code later where you can kind of sign up and chat with us privately. And I'm sure a lot of questions are going to pop up throughout this session. So today on this particular class, we're going to talk about taxes and really two things, actually. I would say taxes and tax basics. So we want to give you guys an understanding of how does our tax system work? What are the different taxes that are coming out of your check? What are the different taxes that you're paying at the end of the year? And then how are your accounts going to be taxed? So I think it's twofold. We're going to use the PowerPoint and then kind of get into an exercise about, okay, money that you're saving, like think about savings accounts, 401ks, stocks, bonds. How are those taxed? And we think that's important for you to understand what you're paying in taxes now and what your taxes may be in the future to help you make good decisions. First, just disclosure, neither Stacy or myself are licensed tax professionals. So please, we are not CPAs. As we talk about this advice, it's from our knowledge as financial planners. Please don't take anything that we say today as personalized recommendations. These are all meant to be just generalizations and need to be information. If you do want more personal advice, that would have to be a separate conversation. So we're trying to give you the basics around taxes here. As we start, so couple things, and again, this is what we see as often an enormous roadblock for people for being financially successful is not understanding how they're paying taxes, not understanding how taxes are going to change over time, how they're going to pay it in retirement. It can really impact a lot. I just got an email from a client, really sharp, really bright, successful client of mine, just got really surprised with a tax bill. And I was surprised to hear that he hasn't been working with a licensed CPA. So I do recommend, and when you're doing your taxes, you should use professionals. Use a CPA to help you out versus kind of doing it yourself. I'm a big proponent of that as well. Let's talk about your W-2 form, and this is something we talked to Ryan about. Topics to cover in this section. This came up, and I think it's tax season right now. Everyone has seen this W-2 form most likely in the last couple of months. And most times when clients send this to me, they say, I don't know what's going on this form. I don't really know what's happening. So I want to focus on kind of the main numbers that you're looking at in terms of your W-2 form. So this is an example. This is not a real person, just real easy and clean round numbers. So to give you an idea, this is what happened for this client. So section 1, box 1 is going to be, it says wages, tips, and other compensation. Now, you'll notice that says 48,500, but column 3, which means their wages that they pay Social Security taxes on, is 50,000. So what creates that disparity? The line in box 1 is typically not going to be your full salary. That's going to be your full salary minus pre-tax deductions. So things like your 401k contribution, if you're making it on a pre-tax basis, is going to get subtracted from that. It could be other benefits that you're paying for. It could be, an HSA health, your health insurance benefit. It could be an insurance benefit that you're paying for pre-tax. So anything that's coming out of your paycheck pre-taxed is going to be excluded from box number 1. Box number 1 is what you're going to pay federal income tax on. So to give you an idea there, if you're making a 401k contribution on a pre-tax basis, that's excluded from your federal income tax. It's excluded from federal income tax. So in this instance, their income after, let's say, 401k contribution is 48,500. Box 2 is showing the federal income tax withheld, 6835. So they took out $6,835 and sent it to the federal government. So just percentage-wise, to give you an idea, 6835 divided by 48.5. My calculator went out. Just over 14% is what they withheld on federal taxes. So that money gets sent to the government. So when you go to file your taxes, your accountant or the system you're using is going to go through some of the terms that we're going to talk about next. But really what they're doing, if you ever got a refund, it's because the money that was withheld from your check was actually more than what was needed. Unfortunately, it's nearly impossible to have that just come out exactly to the dollar. It's very difficult because of some of the terms we're going to talk about. But that's box 1 and 2. Box 3, 3 and 5 are going to be your wages that you're paying Social Security and Medicare tax on. Social Security and Medicare tax is separate from federal income tax. Social Security gets paid into the Social Security system. You then get credited for that wage when it comes to calculating your benefit. Now you'll notice that number's higher. 401k contributions, pre-tax deductions from your paycheck do not reduce the Social Security tax that you need to pay. That's going to be based on the full amount of compensation that you're getting from work. So in this instance, it's the $50,000. Social Security tax is 6.2%. That's why $3,100 is subtracted. That's the same for everybody, but it's only up to a certain extent. And then Medicare is 1.45%. So there's about 7.65% that's coming out of your paycheck that's going to Social Security and Medicare. All right, so that's what you're going to notice on your W-2. Now, when you file your taxes, though, that's not necessarily what you're going to pay taxes on. And here's why. So again, just to help you understand some tax terms here, there's something called your adjustable gross income. Your AGI, that's really what we were looking at in box 3 here. That's your wages, but they're adding back in pre-tax contributions. So your AGI is going to determine your eligibility for a lot of different programs. One that's pretty common is a Roth IRA. So adjusted gross income. So it's all of your income, but not excluding some of those pre-tax deductions that you may not actually pay taxes on. So usually this is going to be a high number, the highest number, pretty much all the compensation that you're making. So we start with our AGI. Then we have, like we saw on the chart, you could have deductions, right? So this person's AGI is most likely 50,000. Let's say they're putting in $1,500 into their 401k. So now we have 48,500 of income that's left for us to pay taxes on. Now we can start to take deductions. So here's how deductions operate. You can either take what's called the standard deduction, or you can itemize your deductions. The standard deduction is every taxpayer is entitled to it. As a single person, now this is from 2019 standards, these have indexed up a bit, but let's call it 12,500. What that means is that you can subtract 12,500 from that 48,500 number to give you the amount that you're actually going to pay taxes on. So if you're single, let's use the same example. If 48, you made 50,000, you put in 1,500 to the 401k, that's 48,500. Subtract 12,500 for your standard deduction. So now we're down to 36,000. If you don't have any other adjustments and credits, that's actually what you're paying taxes on. That's what you're paying taxes on. So when you get a refund, most likely that's the reason why. It's because they're withholding taxes based on your salary, but then when you have the deduction that reduces the amount, then you're actually supposed to pay, so they're going to refund you some of that money. Married couples get twice that deduction. So a married couple can get 25,000 really for last year's tax season. So married couple, household income 200,000. They get to subtract 25,000 from that 200 for what they're actually going to pay taxes on. If you have deductions that are going to be larger than that standard deduction, you can itemize. Now, there was a tax law change a few years back that doubled the amount of this standard deduction. So it used to be in the ballpark of about 6,000 per person. So there were a lot of people that were itemizing deductions at the end of the year. Since that tax change, the number has plummeted for people that actually itemize their deductions. Couple things happen. And what are some of these deductions that you can itemize? State and local income taxes. So if you're paying, for me, it would be, Pennsylvania and the county that I live in. So if I'm paying state and local income taxes, you can deduct that against the money that you pay federal income taxes on, or interest that you pay on a mortgage. That qualifies as well. So mortgage interest, state and local taxes. Now there's a limit now on state and local taxes, which was kind of a big change for a lot of people in certain states recently. Medical expenses, but it's got to be over a certain percentage of your income. And then charitable donations. So if all these are adding up to more than the standard deduction, your CPA or accountant is probably going to recommend that you itemize. So if you add these up and you're married and it adds up to be 40,000, well, it's going to make sense for you to take the 40,000 instead of the $25,000 standard deduction. So again, let's say household making $200,000 a year, they have $40,000 of itemized deductions. Now they're only paying taxes on $160,000. Hope that makes sense. And we'll get to questions here. How does our system work? So this is very misunderstood. And right now, this is the tax brackets for 2020. So a couple years back, these have been indexed recently. We use a marginal tax bracket system. Here's what that means. And I'll go back to that person that was single and paying taxes. So if you go, let's say do the bottom chart here. So if you're single, you have a different tax system than if you're married filing jointly. Here's how it operates. So that person that was making the 50,000, they might look at this chart and say, okay, 50,000, I'm right here. I'm in the middle of 40,000, 85,000. I'm in the 22% tax bracket. So that means I'm paying 22% in taxes. It's not the case. Here's how it operates. The first $9,875, you're paying 10% on. So that's $987. From 9,876 to 40,000, you're paying 12%. From 40,000 to 85,000, you're paying 22%. So there's a big difference between what we call your marginal tax bracket compared to your effective tax rate, which is actually the amount of taxes that you're paying compared to your income. So let's go back to that example. The person that's making $50,000 a year, they get $1,500 contribution to their 401k. So now they're down to $48,500. They have a standard deduction of $12,500. So now their taxable income is $36,000. So now when we go to this chart, the first 9,875, they're going to pay 10%. And then from 9,876 to 36,000, they're going to pay 12%. Does that make sense? Now remember, from the paycheck, they deducted 14%. So that's going to be way too much compared to what they actually owe. So that person's going to be due a refund for sure. So in reality, to give you an idea of what that person would actually pay in taxes, if they're making 36,000 minus 9,876 times 0.12, that person should have paid $4,121 in federal income tax. $6,835 was deducted from their paycheck. So they're going to be due a refund because of the deductions that they got and how our system works. Hope that makes sense. So again, and then it doesn't matter if you're in the 22% tax bracket or the 32% tax bracket. As we have these deductions, the amount of taxes you're actually going to pay is going to be low. To summarize this, we're in a pretty low tax environment right now compared to years past. There's been decades in the not so distant future where we were just paying higher percentages on our taxes. So everyone likes to complain about paying taxes. Nobody actually enjoys it. But we're in a low tax environment right now for a lot of people. So take that just grain of salt as we think about the future. What else do we pay taxes on? You may have gotten something called a 1099 as well. So 1099 can be for a job that you have, or it could also be from investments. So if you own investments that are not inside of your 401k plan, you will most likely have taxes due on a yearly basis. How? Well, investments can grow your money, or you can make money in investments a few different ways. One is you can get interest from it. So if you go and buy a bond, you get interest from that bond. The interest is going to be taxable. So you're going to pay taxes on it, depending on the bond that you choose. Or you could get a dividend. So if you go buy a stock in Stacy Kingsbury company. And at the end of the year, she pays a dividend to the owners. When you receive that dividend, it's going to be taxable. Even though you didn't sell the stock, you didn't do anything with it. But if you collected a dividend, you could reinvest it, do whatever you want with it, but it's going to be taxable. General rule of thumb is if you own that investment for less than a year, you're going to pay income tax on that dividend. If you've owned it for longer than a year, you're going to pay something different, which is called capital gains tax, which we're going to talk about in a second. Capital gains tax is going to follow a different schedule. The other way that you may owe taxes is if you sold an investment, or if you owned an investment like a mutual fund and someone sold stocks within the mutual fund. So let's say I buy stock in Stacy's company. I buy it for $100 and it goes up to 110. Now, if I don't sell it and I just keep the stock, I don't owe any taxes on it. That's what's called an unrealized gain. I have a gain inside of $10, but I haven't realized it yet, meaning I haven't sold that stock and collected my profit. If it's unrealized, you don't have to pay taxes on it. If I sell it, then it becomes a realized gain. I've realized that $10. I made the profit. I locked it in. Now I have to pay taxes on that at the end of the year. I have to pay taxes on it. Now, if you're a savvy investor, you can use gains and losses together to help reduce the amount of taxes that you pay. So if you had some stocks that did well and some stocks that didn't do well, some advisors would recommend, sell gains and losses together to help reduce the amount that you're going to pay. So what do we pay capital gains? What's the rate? It's going to be different than your income tax rate. It's going to be determined by how much income you make. So again, if you're married filing jointly down here, under $80,000 of income, you're going to pay 0%. 0%. If you make between 80 and 496, which is a lot of people, you're going to pay 15%. And then anything above that, you're going to pay 20%. The joke in our industry is that Warren Buffett pays less in taxes than his assistant. Now, that's probably not true. What may be true is the tax rate. So what people like Warren Buffett may do is they may put themselves on the books of their business and pay themselves a salary. The salary may not be that high, so they're going to pay income tax on the salary, but a lot of their wealth is in stock in their company or investments. And then that transfers over to this chart for capital gains. So they might be paying 20% on their gains each year from their investments, even though they're a billionaire. So there's ways to kind of use these different investment rates to your advantage, particularly if you're a business owner compared to an individual. But it is a place where you can save money and pay lower taxes along the way. All right. Just a quick pause for questions. And then we just had an exercise that we wanted to go through. I see that there was something in the chat here.
Yeah, Mike, we did have one. Talks about limits and advantages for self-directed IRA and 401k.
Okay, so I think when I hear self-directed IRA, two things come to mind. Sometimes people do a self-directed IRA where then they can use that money to invest in a business or invest in real estate, kind of like alternative investments. And then sometimes when people say that, they just mean like I'm going to manage the investments inside like traditional stock investments or mutual funds. So I'm not sure really what the question is pertaining, but either side, it's managing your own money, whether you're doing it like self-directed, like in alternatives, like you can buy real estate or you can buy into a business. There's always risk involved, and particularly, Stacey and I have clients that are licensed investment professionals, and I'll often ask, well, why'd you hire me? And they said, well, there's something to be said when I invest my own money compared to when I invest money for someone else. When you invest for someone else, there's no emotion in it. You can think with a clear head, and you can make decisions based on your education and what you think should happen. Sometimes when you run your own account, there's a lot of emotion in that, right? So the stock market is going to continue to go up and down. that's a challenge, right? This is your money. So we see a lot of mistakes, particularly when the market's going down. Not so much when it's going up, pretty much people can do okay. But when the market's going down and you're watching your account balance, it's different. And that's where we see a lot of mistakes happen.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's a really good point. I do have a couple questions that came in private chat to me. Do you want to tackle them first or do the activity?
Let's go do the activity first, because I think
that
might answer some of those questions, and then we'll get back. So again, a couple different places we pay taxes. We're going to pay them on our income, and then we're going to pay them on our assets, so our savings and our investment accounts. So Stacey and I wanted to go through a quick exercise because this is really helpful. We go through this with a lot of our clients to help you understand the money that you're saving, the money that you're investing for your future. How are you going to pay taxes on that? Because a lot of clients that we meet in their 60s, they're a little surprised to find out when they start taking money out in retirement that they're going to pay taxes on it. So when it comes to saving money, investing money, there's a lot of different vehicles that you can put money into. They're all going to fall into one of these four categories. And the difference from one category to the next is how it's going to be taxed. It's how it's going to be taxed. So there's really four ways that investment accounts or savings accounts, something for the future, can be taxed. It can be something that's going to be taxed annually, meaning I put money in the account, I earn interest on it, or I get a dividend, or I sell it and I make some money. I have to pay taxes on that at the end of the year when I file. So if it happens in 2022, I got to pay taxes for it for 2022's tax year. Bottom left, tax deferred. This is going to be money that I can make gains in the account. I can get interest. I can get dividends. I don't owe any taxes on it until the end when I actually start withdrawing the money out of the account. So I can make a ton of money in the stocks and investments inside, but I'm not going to pay until the end. The top right is one that's unique. It sounds better than it actually is. It's one that I could invest money, and because of who I'm investing with, I get that interest tax-free. And then the bottom right is going to be I can invest money, I can save it, and if I follow the rules of these types of accounts, the money can grow, and then it can come out completely tax-free. Not only my money, but all my growth over time. But again, I got to follow the rules. So starting with the top left, some of these vehicles, right? Well, we just talked about one, right? Income. Your income, you're gonna pay taxes on a yearly basis. Savings accounts. Now, the interest on these is kind of laughable at this point. So interest that you get, it's so low, but technically you got to pay taxes on it. Probably the biggest ones in this category are going to be stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Now, these are I'm referring to when you use these outside of a, let's say, 401k plan. If you're just investing on your own, and this became incredibly more popular after the pandemic had started, in terms of people on Robinhood and going on and buying and selling stocks. If you own investments outside of a retirement plan, you may be paying taxes on it on a yearly basis. So if you sell a stock and you had a gain, you're going to pay taxes on it. If you have a bond and you're receiving interest, if you have a mutual fund, almost certainly you're going to be paying taxes on it because there's trading that's going on inside. So at the end of the year, you get a tax form from the company that's housing the money, and they're going to tell you what your tax bill is. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Real estate falls into this as well. So think about real estate. If you own real estate as an investment and you're collecting rent, technically you're paying taxes on that. Now, again, you can have expenses. You could have a business set up to kind of shield some of that. But if you sell that property, certainly at a profit, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. Things that used to be more popular, CDs at the bank. Stacy's laughing. She remembers when these were like popular. I mean, they used to pay 8-10%, 20, 30 years ago. Now they're probably paying 1.5%. So they're not as popular now, but same concept. You earn some interest, you pay taxes on it. The bottom left. So this is a type of, these accounts I can save money. I can grow it for the future, and I don't pay any taxes on it until I start withdrawing money at the end. And then I also may get a tax deduction up front. This is going to be the accounts that we've all probably heard of: 401k plans, 403b plans, something called a 457 plan. So if you ever wonder what the difference is, 401k, 403b, the difference is your employer. If you work for a for-profit, you're going to have a 401k. If you work for a nonprofit, think about school districts, hospitals, it'll be a 403b. If you work for a municipality like a state or a county, local government, you most likely have what's called a 457, or it's referred to as a deferred comp plan. All of these are going to work in a similar way. You get a deduction as you put money in. The money grows. You can have a lot of interest and growth. You don't pay any taxes unless you're withdrawing money out of the account. So tax deduction today, but tax later, and it's taxed as income tax. So remember those two charts we looked at, income tax and capital gains, it's going to be taxed as income tax. Traditional IRAs fall into this. So that's usually used when you leave a job and you could roll your money out of the 401k. So when you roll it to a traditional IRA, there's no taxes due. So it's a tax-free transaction. It goes to the IRA. It's going to be tax deferred again until you start withdrawing the money later. Pension plans fall into this. Also, Social Security. Most people, this is where people get mad, right? Just think about, you pay taxes from your check, and then you got to pay taxes when you receive this benefit. Not every dollar of it will be taxable, but a good portion of it will be taxable when you're receiving Social Security in retirement. All right, there's some more that fill in there as well. Someone mentioned, 401ks, IRAs, some other IRAs for small businesses. The top right, now these only make sense in certain circumstances. You can invest money, get interest back from that money, and the interest is tax-free. These are what's called municipal bonds. Hope I spelled that right. Municipal bonds are, let's say, I live here in Philadelphia. Let's say Philadelphia wanted to build a new bridge. They could issue bonds, so I can lend them money. They pay me back interest, and then they give my loan back to me at a certain point. Because I'm helping out a municipality, that interest can be tax-free. And sometimes it's state, local, and federally tax-free because I'm helping out a municipality. Now, be careful on this. It doesn't make sense for everybody because these bonds typically pay less interest than other bonds that are on the top left that you'd have to pay taxes on. So you have to review how much income you're making, what you're actually paying in taxes. Usually you've got to be in the 32% tax bracket or higher for this to make sense for someone's portfolio. The bottom right, these are pretty common. In this bucket, I'm putting money in. I don't get a tax deduction today. I'm not getting a deduction. My money grows. I don't pay any taxes along the way. And then when I take money out in the future, if I follow the rules, it's tax-free. There's a few things in this bucket. One that's pretty popular is what's called a Roth IRA. And sometimes your 401k may actually give you the option. 10 years ago, probably 1 out of 10 401ks had a Roth option. Now it's probably 9 out of 10. A Roth account, you could put money in, the money grows. You don't get any deductions for it, but the money grows tax-free, comes out tax-free as long as you're 59 and a half years old or older when you start taking money out on the gains. 59 and a half is kind of the magic number for retirement accounts. Two other things that fall into this. Certain life insurance policies have what's called cash value that accrues. It's somewhat of a savings proponent that builds inside policies that you can access. When it's done right, and you follow kind of the rules of the policy, you can take some of this money out without taxes when it's done right. The difference between that and a Roth is really the expectation on growth. I mean, life insurance is not meant to be like a growth vehicle. You really have to know the expectations. Where a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, I mean, can use the stock market for growth, and you could expect some good gains over time if the market does well. The last thing on here, and I think this is widely underused, is what's called an HSA or a health savings account. So this is something that you may have offered to you at work. And you can save money into an HSA. You actually get a tax deduction up front, and the money comes out tax-free when it's used for qualifying medical expenses. So that's fantastic. It's the only thing that works where you get a deduction up front and it comes out tax-free. These can also be carried over year to year. So if you don't spend the whole account, you get to carry that over. So what we see our clients doing, and we talk to them about now, especially as they're preparing for retirement for long term, is they're putting a lot of money in here. It's carrying over year to year, and they can use that in retirement. I'll tell you, this is something I did at an early age before I was married with kids. And that's helpful because now I have money that's been carrying over throughout the years, and kids come with a lot of medical expenses. They tend to get sick and go to the ER in the hospital, and you get a bill. So HSAs are a great way, tax deduction up front, and it comes out tax-free. So I always ask the question. Now I can't really get a response back, but the chat we can have later is, where do you think most people have their savings for retirement? And the majority of people we see is bottom left. They have 401ks, 403bs, and in particular, they're doing the kind where they get a tax deduction up front, but then all of that money, any dollar they take out of that plan later on, they're going to have to pay taxes on at some unknown tax rate in the future, some unknown tax rate. So then I always ask the question, do you think taxes are going up or going down? I think they're going up. Personally, I don't think they're going to go up every single year. They're going to continue to fluctuate, but I think taxes are going to increase. I think we're in a lot of debt as a country. Two things I always say: when you're in debt, you either have to spend less or make more money to pay it down. So in the government, they can make more money by raising taxes. I don't see them spending less anytime soon. So I think taxes will increase in different ways. But again, they can still fluctuate. They're going to fluctuate from time to time as new tax law changes come into play. So then I always ask the question, where do you think is the best place to save? What's the best place to save for the future? It's a trick question. I think it's everywhere. We love when our clients have options. So when you have options, so if you have money in savings or in stocks, okay, you've got an option there. You don't have to wait until you're 59 and a half to use it. You've got access to it, and you're really just paying taxes on the gains. In a 401k plan, 403b, you get that tax deduction up front. It may or may not be good, depending on your income. I'd argue if you're at a lower income rate, it may not make a whole lot of sense, but you get some sort of tax help now, and that money can grow without paying taxes on it until later. I love the Roth accounts. I love things like that, where I get to pay taxes today. I know what my income is. I know what my tax rate is, and I don't have to worry about it later. So we're big proponents of spreading your money out and having different options for later on, whether it's later on in life, later on for retirement, but having money in different spots is going to be helpful. And especially having options where you don't have to pay taxes on your money. So too often we see clients are in their 50s and 60s. They want to take out large chunks from their nest egg. The problem is they got to pay taxes on all of it. So if they need, $300,000 to go buy that vacation house, they really need to take out $500,000 to pay the taxes on it. So that's not good. So again, just always recommend, diversity is kind of the cliche word, but yeah, tax diversity, have different options for yourself is really our recommendation when it comes to taxes. All right. I'll pull this back up just with our QR code. So again, we'll get to some of the questions that have been coming in, but please scan the code. We're offering, again, if you saw us earlier in the webinar, no cost, just kind of a call consultation to, if you have further questions, more personal stuff to give you some help. If you think you're in the market for like professional services, we could talk about it, but we're not going to send you a bill for this call. We wanted to kind of extend it in the spirit of financial literacy. We just love what this webinar series is really all about. We love just education. So being educated is going to help you make good decisions. So we want to offer that. So scan the code and you can find the time on our schedule to chat further. Awesome. And then Ryan, I guess, open up for questions that have come in.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike, and thanks for opening up that opportunity for people to do that. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with QR codes, if you have a newer iPhone or anything, you can just open up your camera, and when you hover it over that, like you're taking a picture of it, it'll pop up a website link you can click on to go and schedule that call. But a couple of questions we had come in, Mike, if you are able to handle or give us a little bit of guidance on is, what's the difference between a tax credit and a tax deduction?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a tax deduction is a deduction from your taxable income. So, think about, again, standard deduction. So if you made 100,000, a deduction is going to reduce the amount of income that you pay taxes on. A tax credit is going to be a dollar for dollar reduction on the amount of taxes that you owe. So if you owe $10,000 and you have a credit for X, Y, and Z for 2,000, that comes directly off the taxes that you owe. So credits technically are more valuable in that sense.
Right, makes sense. Thanks so much, Mike. Another question that we did have, say, you get your taxes filed, you had somebody prep them, or you did them yourself, and it comes out that you owe quite a bit. And say you can't afford to pay the taxes back initially, like it's just like a huge burden to you. Is there any options for anyone?
Yeah, typically the IRS, that's where, again, you want to get an accountant involved. I've seen clients have had this happen before. I know that traditional time frame with the IRS is they want you to pay that back over a 3-year period, kind of like maximum. Now you're going to be paying some interest on it, but again, work with a tax professional. But I've seen it where you can set up a payment plan with the IRS to get that money paid back when, as you can. So yeah, they're looking to work with you. They want to get their taxes at some point is really the key. So work with an accountant. They can kind of not so much negotiate, but kind of structure that with you to make sure you're following the rules and getting the money paid.
Right, that makes sense. I saw Robin just popped in our chat. Thank you for posting a question. 401k and IRA will not be taxed. I think that's taxed anytime, or solo IRA?
No, so 401ks, tax deferred 401k and like a traditional IRA, they follow the same tax rules. So when you put money in, traditionally you're getting a tax deduction up front. So none of your money has been taxed yet. As it grows over time, these are tax sheltered. So you're not going to pay taxes along the way. But when you start withdrawing money from those accounts in the future, that's when you're going to pay taxes. So let's say you're saving in your 401k throughout the years, you're not going to pay taxes on the interest and gains. But then when you start withdrawing money later, any money you take out, so if you pull out 100,000 from your 401k, that's $100,000 of taxable income. You got to pay taxes on all of it when you take it out.
That's great. Thanks, Mike.
So IRAs, everything besides a Roth IRA is going to operate that way. So traditional IRAs, solo IRA, 401k plans are going to follow that tax structure.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And yeah, anyone in here, please take advantage of the chat. You can use the chat feature. I had one more person probably message me. And the question is, can you choose your filing status? Like, so like there's head of household, single, married. I guess married, typically you only do it if you're married. But if you are married, can you pick single or head of household?
So I think I know part of that question. So single, single, you're going to file single. It's going to be certain family circumstances that are going to allow you to kind of be head of household. When you're married, you do have the option. So you can file married filing jointly or married filing separately. Typically where we see that, and again, please consult with an accountant and a CPA before you make any decisions. But where I see CPAs recommend to my clients is if there's if a couple is married and let's say they're part of a student loan program that's going to be based on their income. I see this a lot with physicians where they might file separately, where their income is going to help keep the payment down because the payment's driven from their income, and they might file separately than their spouse. Now there are some negatives to that, so they are going to kind of lower some of those brackets a bit on the tax side. They're not going to let you really share some of these joint deductions that you may have. A big one is a Roth IRA as well. So there's an income maximum that you can make to qualify for a Roth IRA. As an individual, it's in the ballpark of about 130,000. As a married couple, it's in the ballpark of 200,000. So I've had the situations where the client says, well, I make 100,000, my spouse makes 100,000. Why don't we do married filing separately? So we're each at 100. Together we would qualify. the IRS says no. If you're married filing separately, the maximum you can make is $10,000 a year to qualify for a Roth IRA. So again, there's some advantages, but typically they're going to take something away if you're changing the filing status.
Sounds good. Thanks for that advice, Mike. And yeah, I didn't see that's it for our questions right now. I'll leave it still open. You can still feed a question in right now. But again, please scan that QR code. If you'd like to set up some time with Mike or Stacy, both of them are here in the call, and both have been helping coordinate some of our webinars so far today. I'd like to extend a thanks again to Mike and Stacy. 3 amazing sessions that happened today. Going through that. If you missed any or would like to extend it to a friend, it's not too late to register to join the sessions we have for the rest of the week, or join in and come and see those recordings that are going to play from Mike and Stacy, who did sessions back coming over the weekend. So you'll be able to catch those as well too. So, if you found someone like, hey, you watch this, and you're like, oh, my wife should watch this. Oh, my parents, my buddy who just got out of college and his parents aren't going to file his taxes anymore, need to watch this. Like, there's that chance for all of them to do that. And I'd like to, again, thank Mike and Stacy for being here. Thank everyone for coming and attending this session and asking questions. I'll pass it back to Mike and Stacy. Do you have any closing remarks or things to wrap our session up?
No, I mean, just one, thanks for having us again. We're just passionate. We love teaching this stuff. That's really how we like to interact with clients and just the public is through educational sessions like this. If you have questions, and again, this is not try not this to be like a total shameless plug for Stacy and I, but here's my recommendation, and this is with anything in life. Strike while the iron's hot, right? You have questions and you have good intentions to improve your finances. You have a conversation right away, because just the longer time goes by, it's diminishing return, right? You forget about it. Something else pops up in life. So I always say, just act quick on something if you have questions or you have an interest in it. And don't be afraid to ask for help on anything that we've shared today. It's okay to ask. You don't have to do everything on your own. And typically you'll learn something out of it. So that's really it. But kudos to everyone for being here today and learning. I mean, I just think, again, the more you know, the better off you're going to be. Taking the time in this busy world where it's we just want instant gratification, to sit through these sessions for 45 minutes or an hour is good. So kudos to everyone that's here.
Yeah, absolutely. Reiterate that. Oh, go ahead, Stacey. Sorry.
Oh, no, thank you for the opportunity. And, we definitely are here to help. If we don't know the answer, we have plenty of resources to get the answer for you. So feel free to scan the code and set up a meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And reiterate everything they said, taking the time to invest in yourself here. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. We still have one more full day of sessions happening tomorrow. They're a little bit mortgage related. So if you're interested in the potential of home buying, maybe you're already a homeowner, things like that, there's a lot of good topics tomorrow. We have one more session left at 5 p.m. this evening. So I look forward to welcoming you back then. This is our final session from Stacy and Mike. Stacy and Mike, sorry, don't put up my words there. But just wanted to thank them one more time. And you get one more chance to scan that QR code before we wrap things up. But thank you. I will see everybody later this evening. Thank you for attending, and we can go ahead and wrap things up.
Thanks.
Awesome.